Good afternoon. How are you? This is Jazz. I'm a master intuitive healer and teacher. I want to come to you today with just a little bit of teaching and sharing my experience as well with what are the voices of ego? How can you tell the difference between if you're just imagining something or if you're really receiving a message from your spirit, from a higher source, from God, your angels, your guides? Because at times it gets quite confusing, doesn't it? You want to do something, you know that something is changing in your life, or you have a nudge to do something, and then you doubt yourself because you want to follow your spirit, you want to follow your soul, but that something's just is stopping you and saying, is this really my soul speaking to me? Is this really my higher self? Or am I just making it all up? And maybe you don't even know what is soul, what is higher self, and I'm just speaking gibberish to you. So just bear with me and you'll get to know the difference. So, like most humans, you probably have a running commentary in your mind, right? We have what, a 10 gajillion million thoughts per second. And then you have some of the voices in your head that are saying, yes, do this, don't do that, or maybe this reminds you of this reminds you of that. So as soon as you're contemplating maybe changing your job or what to do with your kid, what's going to happen next, if you should do this project or that project, if you should say yes to this relationship or no to that relationship, right? Every day in our lives, we are faced with making choices and decisions. And then there's that running commentary that says, like a sportscaster, and that says that tells you about the play on play about what you're doing, right? I'm not alone. I know I'm not. A lot of my clients are like that too, but you can give me a thumbs up if that is you as well. But most spiritual people, and when my clients come to see me, is because they want to master their intuition. So they want to make sure that what they're saying yes to or what they're saying no to is really what's the best for them and their highest interests or highest good, and so that they're on path. Because you don't want to say yes to all of the opportunities out there because they don't want to be off path. You don't want to just experience everything in life, but you want to make sure that you're doing your gift, you're doing your soul mission, and that implies listening to your inner sense. And when you come to that decision that you want to listen to your inner self, you want to listen to that inner guidance, you want to listen to that divinity in you, well, that means that you need to know the difference between that divinity in you that speaks so softly and all of the other voices, right? So this can sound like social media, your parents, your culture, your religion, your background, your schooling, your education, everything that you came up with, right? So in my book club today, we're reading Untamed by Glennon Doyle, and that was one of the chapters is knowing when you're speaking from or when you're making decisions from the cultural norms or when you're really listening to your knowing. So that's just another way of saying that. So this is the main difference that I have experienced for you to know when it's really a guidance and when it's a voice of ego. So let's say that, I don't know, what is a decision that you might have in your life? So a lot of people the kids are going back to school. So let's say that you're going to college, you want to take a new course. It's September, we're in Virgo season. It's a time to get organized. It's a time to learn something new, just by the way. Extra little tip right there. So let's say that you want to take another course. So you want to take a coaching program. So in your head, things that you might hear is, oh yes, this is really good for you. And if you take this course, it's going to bring you to this. And then you might do this connection. And perhaps you're going to make a lot of money. And it's going to bring you further in your career. Right? So that's one thing. Another voice that you might hear in your head is, well, if you take this course, your mom is really not going to like it because it's something that she doesn't believe in. And nobody in your family has done this before, so why should you? Another voice you might hear is, that is so dumb. That is so stupid. Why the hell would you ever take that course? And that other course and that other voice in your head might say, oh my God, this is so exciting. I want this so much. And this is going to be so good for me. And I'm going to learn so much. Right? Does that sound familiar? And there might be like a gazillion other voices going on, but let's say those are the four main ones. So let's differentiate. Are those the voices of ego, or are those the voices of your spirit? So typically, what is the purpose of your ego? First of all, the purpose of your ego is to keep you safe. So to keep you safe, it means that the voice of your ego does not want you to change. So if your ego is fearful that if you take this course, you're going to change, you're going to expand your mindset, you might go against the family grain, you might start thinking differently than other people in your family or in your community, your voice of ego is going to bring up the sensation of fears, right? So, oh, don't do this, it's too dangerous, nobody has done this before, that's so stupid, don't do that. So that would be a voice of ego. It's a fear that wants to keep you safe. So when you hear that voice, you can say, oh, thank you, ego. I hear you. Thank you for trying to keep me safe. And I choose to. And that's when you're going to make your other choice. Because you can listen to ego. Sometimes it's valid, right? Sometimes we have ideas of doing something and it's dangerous. So there's some validity there, right? Never ever am I saying don't ever listen to your ego. Your ego wants to keep you safe. But most of the time, especially when we're embarking on a path of spiritual growth, we have to stretch out of our comfort zone. Okay, so it's kind of the difference there. So ego is going to bring up all the fears. The other thing that ego is going to want you to do is to acquire more stuff in a way. So your ego is always going to, it's that expression, striking your ego. So, oh yes, you're so good at this. This is going to be so good for you. This is going to help you do this, and you're going to network this, and then you're planning. You're in like a strategic planning phase. So that again that's a voice of ego because it's bringing you up, right? It's giving you so much, like you're like a better than type of situation. But you're also in the fourth energy, which is your intellect, and your intellect is the one. Sorry, I'm like full of cat hair because it's so hot. My cats are shedding. Got hair all the place. So you're also in the fourth vibration, which is your head. So that is not the voice of your highest self. Your highest self exists on the seventh plane and above, not on the fourth. The fourth is your intellect. And your intellect is going to take an idea and make a plan out of it, which is also good at times, right? Because we do need to plan our lives. We do need to know us step by step. But you also need to know that when you have an idea and then it goes straight into a long plan of action and what you're going to get out of this, or the ideal aspect of this, again, it's not the voice of your highest self. That's the voice of your fourth dimension. It's the voice of your mind. Now, any voices that also remind you of, this is the voice of my mom, this is the voice of my dad, this is the voice of my community, this is the voice of a priest when I was young, is the voice of my teacher. So know where those voices come from. Does that make sense? Let me know. If you have questions, if you have comments, let me know. I'm not seeing anything pop up. The whole live thing changed, but I'll get to the questions after the live, all right? So then, if all of those situations are voices of ego, voices of your mind, voices of your fears, voices of your past, what does the voice of your spirit sound like? So one thing for you to understand is that your highest self, most of your spirit guides, and spirit guides is not grandma who passed away. She is not your spirit guide. She might guide you for some things, but she is not your spirit guide. Most spirit guides, especially angels, have never incarnated physically. They've never come down to this 3D. They've never incarnated physically. So that means that part of their understanding is that they don't have emotions because they have not experienced them. And your spirit guides and the angels who have not incarnated in many, many years, right? It's like eternity. They are here to serve you, but not from a place of emotion. So they will never say, oh, this is so bad for you. They will never say this is so good for you. They will never say this is going to make you feel a certain way. The job of your spirit guides and your angels is to help give you direction for you to make informed decision. So when they give you direction, the voice of your higher self or guides or angel is going to feel very direct, very short, not emotionally involved. They're not involved in your 3D self. They're not involved in your ego. They're not serving your ego. They're not trying to make you feel better. They're not going to make you feel worse. It's just, this is your next set of direction. So it sounds a little bit more like a GPS. So if you want to know, like if one of your questions is, please give me like the best parking spot when I go to the mall, the voice of your highest self might just say turn right, even if it doesn't make sense. If this is like a street higher from the mall or whatever that is, it's going to be turn right, turn left, go straight, next town over is short like that. Does that make sense? So there's no emotionality involved. So my experience of this is 10 years ago when I went to Brazil at the John of God Casa, right? So I had never heard of the John of God place before. I had never heard of the Casa, had no interest of traveling to Brazil, wanted to do spiritual retreats, but I was just starting on my Reiki journey back then, so I wasn't intent on leaving the country and going to someplace in the jungle to have a spiritual retreat. I wasn't there yet. But someone on Facebook, and again, Facebook was so different 10 years ago than it is today, right? But so someone reached out to me and she said, Jazz, I noticed that you're doing Reiki, and I think that this retreat in Brazil is going to be really good for you. And she was a guide for that place, right? So she was trying to sell her retreat. And I didn't know this person at all. It was like a cold call. So I looked at the information and I said, yeah, thanks, but no thanks. And then I looked at what they were doing at the Casa and I thought, this is definitely not for me. There's like the psychic surgeries and so many things in the intuitive world that I was afraid of back then that I'm not afraid of anymore today. But let's just say I was not impressed, did not want to go to Brazil, to the John of God place anyway. So I let that go. Thanks, but no thanks is not for me right now. Part of my mind would have said, oh, this is going to be so cool. And if you do a spiritual retreat, it's going to, I don't know, raise your awareness. It's going to raise your profile. It's going to help increase your energy and all of that. Again, that's not the voice of my higher self, right? That's the voice of the intellect and the voice of the ego. And then there's also the voice of the imagination. Like, what am I going to see when I go to Brazil? And is there going to be mountains? Is there going to be this? Am I going to start seeing all the spirits and all the weird stuff going on? And I didn't really want to do that. So that's a voice of imagination. When you start seeing yourself at the point of like what you want to manifest, that is the voice of imagination. Again, it's very good. It can serve you, but it's not the voice of self. So fast forward a couple months, and I think it was around Easter time that year, so I think that was 2011 already. And I was sleeping, and I was waking up in the morning, and then I heard very clearly, and it was the first time that their audience was external to me, and I heard very clearly, Jazz, you're going to Brazil, it's time. Not a morning person. So, and this is not like receiving the message from the divine self and it's all beautiful and the sun parted. No, it's like, Jazz, so I'm sleepy. So hair all messed up, Jazz, you're going to Brazil, it's time. So I kind of wake up and go, huh? Right? Very spiritual, right? Saying, huh? And the message repeated, Jazz, you're going to Brazil, it's time. Well, by then I was fully awake. And I was looking around because there was nobody else, right? I was alone in my bedroom. So then I woke up and I said, What do you mean I'm going to Brazil? What do you mean it's time? And then I had all of those questions. And then I had all of the blocks. Well, my husband won't let me go. I will never have the money to go. It's going to be so difficult to go to Brazil. And what if there's, medical impediments and things that different vaccines for tropical diseases and, all those things were going through my mind. And then I just stopped myself and I said, okay, you know what? Talking to the voice that was out there. If this is my time to go to Brazil, it's going to be easy. It's going to be easy for me to organize. It's going to be easy for me to be there. It's going to be easy for me to find the money to get there. And everything is going to happen according to the divine plan. So I will put on hold all of my other fears, my imaginings, my plans. If this is meant to be, it's going to happen in a way that is peaceful. And by August that year, I was in Brazil. Like within a month, I had my ticket and everything was ready to go. So that is a difference. And it was an awesome, I really, really loved that spiritual retreat, by the way. But that is a difference when it is that voice from the highest self, from a guide, from your angel. It's going to be short and sweet and non-emotional. There were no emotions there. Jazz, you're going to Brazil, it's time. Right? There's no extra emotions. Jazz, you're going to go to Brazil and this is going to be awesome and you're going to learn this and you're going to meet this person. It's going to help you grow. No, it's just, you're going to Brazil. It's time. You're doing this. This is your next step. Right? So you understand the difference now between the voice of your highest self, which is going to be clear, short and sweet, and not meddled in your emotions, and the voice of ego, which is full of emotions, which is full mostly of fear, which is going to make you feel more than or less than, so better than this person who's never done this, or lesser than this other person, right? So the more than, less than, so that's ego voice and the fears. Voice of your imagination, which is seeing yourself actually doing that and how it's going to feel and what you're going to learn. And then the voice of your head, of your mind, which is going to plan everything strategically. So we all have those four voices all the time in our heads. You need to be able to differentiate which voice is speaking so that you know which one you're listening to, and so that you can make informed decisions in your life or whatever it is that you're doing, whether you're looking for a beautiful parking space that's easy for you, or taking a new course, working with a spiritual teacher, or having a spiritual experience like I did. So listen for those voices of those four voices in your head. So I've got the ego, the imagination, the mind, and then the guides. I hope that makes sense to you. If you have any questions, do let me know in the comments and I will answer as soon as I can. Giving you much love from my heart to yours. See you soon. Bye for now.